Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ICEcast, and I am proud to finally have on my podcast my brother from another mother, Todd. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
So, probably along with a handful of others, you were one of the first people I wanted to get on here, and it's just life in 2020 kept you from being on here. You just recently moved into a new house, and you had to settle in. But I'm glad to hear that you're on here, dude.
Yeah, glad to be here. It's been a while. I've been wanting to do it for quite some time now, and well, here I am. I finally made it.
There you go. That's it. That's awesome. So there's a handful of topics that I've written down. But one of the ones that I think we're going to start right off the bat with, just because it was fun to do, and you and I just talked about it yesterday, is if you and I had the ability to recast the main characters from the movie The Justice League, that overall didn't do as well as we had hoped. I know, if I remember, you are, but I know I'm a huge DC guy over Marvel. Yep, there it is.
Just saying. Just saying.
So, it wasn't hard to recast for me, aside from maybe Superman, because let's face it, he is Superman. You look at that man, and but yeah, we covered Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman, and then we added Green Lantern. So,
Actually, added an additional one that you didn't have.
sir. Well, look at that. All right. Well, we'll go back and forth. I'll let you start. You pick the character, and we'll talk about who you casted.
So first and foremost, I just want to say if I mispronounce any of these names, I
Same.
apologize now.
Same.
You know what? I want to start with Green Lantern. Let's start with Mr. Hal Jordan himself. Who did you go with for Hal Jordan pick?
So I actually casted for Hal and for John Stewart, but for Hal Jordan, I went with the person that should have been Green Lantern before Ryan Reynolds, and that's Nathan Fillion.
Ooh,
He's most popular for Firefly, and everyone wants him to play an older Drake in the Uncharted movies, but I think Nathan Fillion would be the best Green Lantern, at least the Hal Jordan version.
That's not a bad one. That's a pretty good one. I actually ended up going a different route. For Hal Jordan, I went a little younger. I actually went with Chris Pine. I think would make a good Hal Jordan.
Yeah, he has that. Chris Pine is a very underrated actor to where he can do a lot of serious stuff, but then he has that side of him that's kind of cocky but funny.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that would fit Hal Jordan very good. Yeah.
And he's not super bulked out like a lot of actors nowadays. He's enough to make it look muscular, but he's not massive.
Right. Yeah.
So he's got that physique of a Green Lantern.
I almost like him. I like it more than mine. That's what's making me upset. So for the Jon Stewart version, I had to go with someone who I think deserves it just because of how much he did for DC in the TV shows, and that's David Ramsey. He played Diggle in the TV show Arrow, and from the entire series, people wanted to see him basically be Green Lantern. I think he'd be great at it.
I honestly thought they were going to go that route too with him. I thought Dig would make a great Lantern.
For the series finale of Arrow, what they did was meteorite crashed in the Earth. Diggle, yeah, well, it was like a year or so ago, yeah. But Diggle opened up the meteorite and it just glowed green on his face, and that's how they left it. So they kind of gave the fans what they wanted, but yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I went with funny enough, went older with him. And once again, I apologize for names, but I got Idris Elba. Idris Elba,
yeah. I had a feeling that's who you go with. He's a beast.
He is, and he looks like he would make an awesome Green Lantern, like one who really loves the motto of being a Green Lantern, the protector. You know, that's just who he plays, as a protector.
Especially the Jon Stewart version, yeah.
Exactly. So that I would definitely go with him for that one. But I have to say Diggle. Yep. Diggle's a good choice, though. I was a huge fan of Diggle.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. It was also good because there's a handful of other people that I picked that David Ramsey has been with in other things, so it would mesh really well. But who are we gonna go with next? I go with the one that you didn't let me know about. I'm a little curious about this.
So I added, actually, I think I added two additional. One is an actual Justice League cast member that wasn't part of the movie, but he's a part of the original Justice League, which is, of course, we were just talking about Diggle, but counter to him, Green Arrow.
Right.
So Green Arrow, I'll start with him first. I actually went with, once again, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but Charlie Hunnam?
Hunnam. Yeah.
Hunnam, there you go.
Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy.
Looks like, and
Yep.
just the epitome of Oliver Queen.
He would be perfect, actually. I think there was a small rumor that if they brought Arrow into the DCEU, he was in talks to read for it and stuff. But yeah, no, that's Charlie Hunnam would be a great pick. A lot of people want to see him as Superman also, but
too edgy. Not
right? Yeah, Superman's pure, you know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Did you have an Arrow?
No, but I would go with Charlie Hunnam 100%.
Since we were talking about him being a possible Superman, who did you go with Superman over than Henry? Because Henry was
One second. I want to show you something 1 second because you just brought that up. Since we brought it up, this is one of the best Christmas gifts I got from my buddy Tommy. And it's, I don't know if I can see it there. Let me see if I can.
Here we go, Green Arrow. Is that the new 52?
It's let me see, I can barely make it out. That's Green Arrow number 17. Okay. 9.8 is the grade on it, and it's signed also by one of the artists. He got I think, no, I'm sorry. That's right, it's signed by the dude that played Deathstroke in the TV show.
Oh, okay. What's his name?
Got his name.
Bug me now. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He was a great Deathstroke.
Manu, something like that. Manu Bennett.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Great
so yeah. Awesome. He got me that. So I love the TV show, and Flash is my favorite still, but Arrow's awesome.
Yeah, Arrow I started with. I watched it through the whole thing. I fell off a little bit towards the end, but I still finished it.
A lot of people did.
But overall, it was honestly the biggest drawback, especially the last part of Arrow, was the whole fast forward into the future, but then going back to the past, and they kind of went real far left on it, and it kind of ruined it. So, but overall, what's his face, Stephen Amell, amazing job playing Arrow. Very broody, but great job overall.
Right. Yeah. He was more of a Batman than a Oliver Queen. Oliver Queen's a little more cocky, a little, talks a lot more. And so, but he still did good. So you want to go to Superman, you said?
Yeah, let's do Superman, because Henry, by far, next to, Superman himself, Henry has been the best cast for Superman, in my opinion. Hands down, 100%.
Yeah, as an actor, he's able to portray Clark Kent as a very innocent, pure guy. And as Superman, the dude needed no extra muscle for the suit. The guy's a massive individual. So it's a great pick. But he's a little small, but I think he fits the role well, and that's Matt Bomer. I think that's how you say his last name. He was in White Collar, 50 Shades of Grey. The look alone sells it for me. And might be a little on the edgier side, but I think he could still handle it.
Funny enough, that was actually my original guess, because if I'm not mistaken, he does actually voice Superman in one of the many cartoons out there. Yep. And he has the voice, he has the attitude. That was actually one of my first picks, but I actually ended up going with Richard Madden.
From Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Sir.
I'm going to say
Rob Stark. Shout
out to our brother Jimmy. We were talking about it, and he was the one who kind of put that idea into my head at first. I was like,
wow,
that actually makes perfect sense. So I switched from that over to Richard. He would make an idyllic Superman, I think. He's got the look, he's got the innocence, but yet strong look about him, and he was a great actor in Game of Thrones.
Dude, yeah. Rob Stark himself, dude. That's an awesome pick. My buddy Brian's going to really appreciate that. He and we've done at least 2 episodes of my podcast, strictly Game of Thrones. Dude, yeah, I'm just looking at pictures of clean shaven Rob, and yeah, dude, that's a great pick, actually. All right, Jimmy, shout out.
Yep.
Since he won't get on the podcast, I guess we'll give him a little shout out. Dang.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this one. This one is the addition, not a Justice League member in any fashion whatsoever, but wanted to throw this character out there because he's an underrated comic character that doesn't get any screen time, who deserves some screen time. The Red Hood from Batman. Old school Robin.
I think I heard might be in the Titans show coming up. I think they're leaning.
I've heard rumors.
Yeah.
So
okay.
But I threw him on the list because I had an actor just pop in my head and I couldn't put him where I wanted. So I was like, you know who he'd be? He'd be a great Red Hood. And if you are a fan of another CW show, Supernatural, Jason Ackles. Perfect.
Yeah. Jensen Ackles. You could actually probably take Jensen and cast him in any person. Honestly, the dude's an incredible actor. But that's perfect.
Yeah, I just had to throw that one out there because it popped up. I was like, you know what? Let's give this guy a shout out.
All right, I like it. I almost started casting a couple extra, but I was like, I'm not going to throw that on him. But you did anyway, so cool.
Hey, if you come up with one, feel free to shoot one out.
Yeah, there we go. I'm going to go with one of the easiest ones for me. Okay. And that was the Flash.
Ooh. Because
just the fact that they didn't even consider this man for the Flash because he is Barry Allen. And that's Grant Gustin.
You know, I struggled with that. I love Grant. Don't get me wrong. Great Flash. Love the show. He does an amazing job as Barry Allen. However, I like the current cast. I think he does an amazing job. But I actually went with somebody else for Flash, amazingly enough. I went with, once again, mispronouncing last names here, Skylar Gisondo.
Never heard of him.
Go ahead and Google him up real quick. So Skylar, and then the last name is Gisondo. It's either Gisondo. If you see him, you're going to recognize him. Not a huge actor, but
no.
He's coming out.
You know, he was in a Vacation with it was like the reboot of the National Lampoons and stuff. He was in Night at the Museum. He has a great, like, he looks like a Barry Allen, 100%.
Exactly. That's you know, I was kind of like doing some research because I had a hard time for it. He was in Santa Clarita Diet, a great show on Netflix that unfortunately got canceled, but has a couple seasons, which is really funny. But he had that. His character in that show showed kind of like Barry Allen on the jokester side, because the original Barry Allen in the comic books, things like that, not always too serious, very jokester-like, you know, has a good time, and he has that feel about him. So I thought it would be a good younger Barry Allen.
I will say that is that Grant in season 1 and 2 was the best because he was very Barry Allen, whereas he got very moody and serious, and you know, Grant. But for me, I think Ezra played it too naive,
a little too,
and it just like almost aloof. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Yeah. Barry's one of the smartest characters, and it kind of bothered me. But Grant himself, like season 1 and 2, to me was like the epitome of Barry Allen, the Flash, and so. I can't not go with him for me, but your pick was that would be, I would want to see that one because we've seen Grant, but I would want to see yours.
Exactly. Trying to pick new people that's never played these characters was the hardest thing to come up with, man. Who did you go with? Let's pick another one that's iconic now for the person that played the character in the movie. Who did you go with? Aquaman.
I had a feeling you would pick that. So I went with a very basic look. I wanted the comic book style. We've already talked about him, but I've seen him in other things, so I know he can play a more upbeat style character, but that's Stephen Amell. I think he would be a good Aquaman.
That would be tough for me for Aquaman. I like Stephen. He's a great guy, but I don't know if I see him as an Aquaman.
You're so used to seeing him just broody and moody and stuff, but
no, I mean, I watched him in, he did this one movie with his cousin where they had superpowers and he played like the bad guy.
It was on Netflix. It was really good.
Yeah. I watched that. I remember seeing that when it was being promoted as like you could actually donate to get the
Yep.
movie going, and I ended up watching that. I've seen him in some other things too. You know, I've
See,
watched him in a couple of things.
for me, it was more
So
picture Aquaman from Flashpoint. That's the more look of Steven
okay,
that I think it would be. I forgot to turn my light back on. Jeez.
there you go.
But
Okay. I get where you come from. I don't know if I can necessarily peg that one for my personal picks, but this is the joys of this. This is personal
exactly
picks,
right.
right? Yeah, exactly. These aren't set in stone. This is just for fun. But for me, I ended up going with Garrett Hedlund. I think is how you say the last name. I know Garrett's the first name 100%.
Why do
Last
I know
name
that name?
Hedlund. You're going to know as soon as you pull it up, you're going to be like, I know that guy. I'm really bad with names, apparently. I didn't realize how bad I suck at this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Tron and Four Brothers. Yeah, I remember him.
There you
What
go.
else
Yep.
was there?
I thought of Tron.
Broken.
And
Yeah,
then I was like, you know what? He kind of looks like, original Aquaman. And
right.
I was like, that's the Aquaman we need. We need that original. Like, don't get me wrong, Jason Momoa, amazing. I love his Aquaman.
Yeah.
He was, a good choice for this one because it was a different type of version. But if you want to go traditional comic books Aquaman with Arthur Curry, that's the look, that's the style you want to go
Yes.
for.
No, I agree 100%. It's hard to recast certain ones. I mean, let's be honest. When we're talking about Batman, even when we first heard that Affleck was going to take over, nobody believed in him. Not a
I
single
did.
person. There's no
I
way you
did.
believed. There's
No,
no way.
because I was the only person who actually liked Daredevil. I didn't mind Daredevil because you know what? It wasn't
Yeah.
specifically that amazing of a movie, but he did a good job. And I give
I
him
know where
credit,
you're
so
at
I
because
had hopes.
I'm one of like 4 people in the world that really enjoy the Suicide Squad movie. I think it's a great movie from beginning to end. So I know where you're at with that. But when I saw Batman vs Superman as a movie, I didn't really enjoy it that well. But for Batman and Bruce Wayne and that age they were going for, Ben Affleck absolutely killed it, which led me to now this upcoming movie with what's his name, the
Twilight.
vampire kid.
Yeah, I can't
He
think of
was
his
in
name
Harry
yet.
Potter.
Yep.
Pattinson, Robert Pattinson.
That's the one.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm not worried at all because at this point, well, if Ben Affleck could do it in my mind, let me give this guy a shot. And I did see him in a movie called, I think it was The Lighthouse, where it's a very dark and dramatic movie, and he was killer. So I'm like, all right, I'll give that a try. And the trailers so far haven't disappointed. But if we're gonna stick with that, we'll go with Batman. And I went with Michael C. Hall, who played Dexter in the show
Ooh.
Dexter.
That's interesting because I looked at he was actually one I had considered, and I didn't know if I could go with him because of Dexter. I hate to say it because you get those certain actors who are typecasted who, when you look at them, that's all you see. And
Right.
unfortunately for him, he is absolutely 100% will always be Dexter in my opinion.
Right.
Which is sad because he's a great actor. He did an amazing job as Dexter. But it's funny because I looked at him too because I was like, oh, he's got that broodiness, but he also
Right.
has that rich look. He looks like he's made of money.
Exactly.
So that's a good pick. That's funny that I was went with him too.
That's really funny.
I ended up going with what was his name? Daniel, and once again, last name's man Gillis. I think it's Gillis. Google. Everyone who's gonna watch this episode of yours is gonna be like, I gotta Google
Well,
who is he
I'll be
talking
putting pictures up also.
Thank God.
Canadian, New Zealand.
Mhm.
I don't recognize him, but he does have that like rich boy look.
Mhm.
Let me see what he's been in.
He's not the biggest actor, but he's been in a few things.
He was in Spider-Man 2 playing John Jameson.
Yep. He was also in what was the name of that show?
He's been in SEAL Team a couple times. Vampire Diaries.
Yep, that's what I remember him from because he plays an older brother in that show, and that character right there is what made me think of Bruce Wayne. He's
Okay.
very sophisticated, very rich looking, if you will. So Bruce Wayne was,
Right.
and he's tall, he's stocky, but he's not overly buff. Which to me, that's Batman. I don't see Batman as The Rock, where he's got
No.
this
Right.
massive muscle. He's
Right.
thin, fit, jumping from roof to roof because he's human. And
Yep.
that's why I went with Daniel. I thought that was looks wise.
That's a good one. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Um, we got Wonder Woman and Cyborg left. What do you got? Which one?
Let's go with Wonder Woman. I want to see who you replaced Gale with because she
There,
was
she
the
is Wonder Woman.
yeah, hands
I
down.
mean, with the release of the movie in general, and this is going to sound so sexist because I did the same thing with Miss Marvel. I had no interest in seeing it. I was like, it is what it is. I've never been a fan of Wonder Woman, but I went and saw it, and I'm pretty sure from like within the first 15 minutes to the end, my jaw was on the floor. It was just an incredible movie, and I'm so excited for the second one. I'm going to butcher her name, but the main reason I remember her is from Quantum of Solace. She was a Bond girl. She was also in one of the Hitman movies, and that's Olga Kurylenko, I think is how you say it. She has a very, like she's kind of tall. She has a very strong look to her, kind of like Gal has with the like a strong jaw. So when they first cast Gal, also I remember actually being a little mad because in my head I'm like, Wonder Woman's an Amazon, bro, and you're casting this gorgeous woman, and it's like it didn't fit in my head. But then after I watched it, I was like, all right, I was wrong. So
hands down. I mean,
100%
not
wrong.
only is she strong, but there's not a bad-looking Amazon,
right?
And Gale fits that. I
exactly.
hate to say it like that, but that's why she does such a good job. Not only is she an amazing actress, don't get me wrong, but she looks amazing. She's amazing at what she does. Hands down, one of the best actresses casted in the DC world, 100%. Good choice though. That's actually a really good one. I didn't think about her. I actually ended up going. I don't know if this once again another CW show. I don't know what it is with CW, but CW casts some really good people.
Yes, they do.
And I'm not even gonna try her last name. I believe it's Greek. So it's a lot of letters, and I don't even know how to say it. But her first name is Marie.
It's a lot of letters.
It is. It's let's see, Abdur Apolios.
Oh, all I typed in was Marie and it popped up.
Yeah, she's from the 100. She plays this detective, Octavia.
Dude, she plays Octavia. Oh, she's a bad bitch, dude.
She's not only good at stunts and fighting and things like that, which makes her, in my opinion, a good cast, but she has that Amazon look. Now, the only downside is she's not Amazon-esque as far as like height and muscle build. But the muscle build, things like that can all be worked on for a movie. But for her, I don't know. I just saw kind of like Wonder Woman.
Dude, she is incredible in the 100. She was one of my favorite characters since it started, and she has a movie coming up. I want to say next year. It's just straight up called Jiu-Jitsu, and she does a lot of her own work.
I saw something like that. Yeah, I saw a brief of that. Now, don't say anything as far as the 100 goes. I am wrapping that show up as we speak. I've got like 4 or 5 episodes left, and then I'm done. But yeah, no, great show. I just saw Bellamy and what happened to him. That's where I'm at.
Right. That I was actually a little mad at that. I was like, come on.
Out of everything they went through, that's how they're going to end his character?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Come on.
I understand you want like a shock thing, but let's end it a little better for him. He was
right. He deserved a bit more, but that's a whole other topic.
Right.
That's another show.
The 100 actually gave me one of my favorite songs I listen to now, which is actually I knew the song already, Radioactive, but it was a cover of it, real slow. Oh, dude, I heard that on the show and I was like, let me add that to a playlist real quick. So.
Speaking of which, do you remember the episode where Clark has the other girl like in her head, right? And she's doing the painting, and there's that like French pop song playing in the background. Right. My wife loves that song, and I hear it all the time thanks to that show. And I've never understood French pop, but now it comes on, and I can start singing along to it. I've heard it so many times. It's catchy as hell.
You're gonna be driving one day singing that, and they'll be like, "Oh, you know French?" Nope. Not at all.
I heard the guys at work in the back, they're working in the warehouse doing the stocking, getting our packages ready and stuff going on to customers. And I heard that song start playing. I'm like, are you kidding me? It followed me to work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's a whole other subject. We'll have to get together, talk to 100 at one point.
Oh yeah, I'm down for that too.
So last but not least, we have Cyborg himself.
Probably not the character I would have thought we would have ended with.
Right.
So many people came to my mind, from like John Boyega. I even thought of maybe Donald Glover, and he's more comedic. So and he's kind of small. Cyborg's a big dude. He was a football player. So I went with Winston Duke. He was in Us. He was in Black Panther. Big dude, and can act his living butt off. So I think that would be a lot of fun to see.
That's a good one. Okay. I wouldn't have gone with Donnie Glover though.
No, just he's a good actor, and I wanted to try and get him in, so I thought about it, and I just I like looked up things, and he's just too comedic for the role. I thought maybe if I did a Wally West version of the Flash, maybe I would throw him into that, but
okay, I can see that. Wally West would be a good one.
Right.
Me for Cyborg, I went with Jordan Calloway. Not like Google again.
Dude, I feel like I'm doing another casting with my buddy Brian. He comes up with people, I'm just like, I don't know who that was. Jordan Calloway, American actor.
Tell me he doesn't look like Victor Stone.
He looks. He's in Black Lightning. Okay.
Yep.
Another CW actor. Come on, dude.
Hey, I can't help it that they cast good actors just in the wrong places.
Right.
But no, he plays Painkiller in Black Lightning. He plays a bad guy, good guy. And he's really good, really great actor. He's about the right age of Victor Stone, coming right out of high school into college. Right. And he is also not super bulk, but pretty damn muscular. So
right.
He was automatic choice for me.
No, that's a hell of a choice. A lot of Googleable people, but they were all good.
It helps if I could say their names.
With Flash, hopefully sometime, maybe starting to film here soon. If they still go the Flashpoint route, which I would love to see on film, I don't know if they'll go full Flashpoint with Wonder Woman and Aquaman feuding, but last I heard, they actually were going to recast Bruce Wayne's dad to play Batman. I'm like, why would you not stick with Jeffrey Dean Morgan that was in the movie already with I forgot her name that played Maggie, but they were going to recast him. And I was like, that'd be the perfect older Batman. Like,
hands down, that was actually one of my picks for Batman. I was like, maybe I could I can't do it because Well, yeah, right. No, I wouldn't recast him at all.
No,
that's perfect
for Thomas. He would be the perfect Thomas Wayne version of Batman to me.
Hands down.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Flashpoint, that would be something. I loved Flashpoint, the cartoon version. Story. The comics are amazing. I mean, they kind of did it with their anti-monitor thing that they did and CW as their combination for the year, as they always do, the crossover event. Yeah. They did a really good job with that, and that's what they kind of did with it with the Flashpoint by bringing all the different worlds together, all the different Earth dimensions and all that. And it kind of created that Flashpoint, which I thought that's what they were doing with. Though I have to say my biggest downside, the biggest thing that I hate the most that Flash has done is basically killed Vibe. Like, Vibe is such a great character, and Cisco Ramon, the guy that plays him, has done an amazing job. He's so good. Except this last season, I can't stand him anymore. I've lost my happiness when I see him.
I know the actor also didn't want to do it anymore, so I guess he took less time he took less camera time, and so you could probably see it in his acting that he doesn't want to do it. There's a couple like I love the actress that played Jessie Quick. I thought that was a great character, and they didn't stick with that. And Keenan Lyonsdale that played Wally West was great. I'm glad that he went over to Legends for a little bit, so I got to see him there. But Legends also, they gave you people like Constantine again, so that was fun.
I was glad to see Constantine back.
They're doing the movie, this part 2 with Keanu Reeves. I'm pretty excited about that.
I heard that, and I heard that they were actually talking about bringing CW Constantine instead of Keanu Reeves, because everyone was up in arms with the Keanu Reeves version originally.
Really?
And everybody loves it. I personally, I watched it 1,000 times at this point. I loved it. Not a lot of people understood who he was, though, when that came out. That was before the big, comic boom that we had.
Right.
So people weren't really understanding who he was. Why do we have this movie about this guy with these tattoos and he can see hell, but why? No one got the idea.
No one understood it yet. I think both actors, well, I guess it'd be the writers for the show and the movie. They hit the comics differently, but still hit it really well with like the TV show version, especially now with Legends touching on the bisexuality of Constantine, whereas the movie really hit on the illness for Constantine and, you know, fighting that. And so you don't really see that much in the TV show. But I mean, I want to see Keanu Reeves again, so I wouldn't mind if they do another. They've already established the DC EU is part of DC TV.
Yep.
During the Flash, so why not bring that Constantine to that movie? I'd be okay with that, even. You know.
Exactly. So like you got to see a little bit of the Justice League Flash with the CW Flash, which was a kind of little cool, you know.
Right. Mix. That I popped pretty hard for that because, like, I'm not the biggest Ezra Miller fan, but just to see him with Grant and the way they interacted, I was like, okay, that was cool. I was like, I could get down with that.
I'm a big fan of Miller. I think he does a great job in his acting. Like every character he plays, you forget who he is and just get sucked into his character.
Right. He was good in what was that movie? Fantastic Beasts. He was really good in that.
Fantastic Beasts, where to find him. I didn't even recognize him the first time I watched it. That's how good of a role he played. And then I was watching, I'm like, wait a second, that's Flash.
Right. I'm gonna bring it up now since you already said Richard Madden. I forget that you were a Game of Thrones guy also. So it's good to be able to at least talk with that aside from just my buddy Brian. But I'm gonna bring up season 8 with you.
Oh goodness.
The one that everybody.
The season we don't talk about.
Right. So it's like I've talked to him about, if you just take away the absolute dumpster fire of writing and just look at the acting and just the action scenes, it was a great season to watch. But as a Game of Thrones fan, we watched the story and it just didn't make sense. And, you know, for me personally, the two biggest things that I hated was Dany's arc, just all of a sudden was randomly a bitch, which and how they ended Jaime's story. I thought that was bullshit.
You know, Jaime, I get, don't get me wrong, I ended up liking Jaime. But with the end of his story, I wouldn't say that was like a hard hit for me. I think my biggest issue was really the whole winter's coming. And then you get to that arc where he finally makes it to Winterfell, and there's that, then Arya out of nowhere stabs him, and it's over.
Right.
Now, Arya, awesome Arya. Love her. One of my favorite characters. I love where they went with her, how she did it, you know, becoming the assassin. That was amazing. But the death, that so quickly, they just had the battle. He just shows up and dead. That was 8 seasons leading up to Winter is Coming for 30 seconds?
Right.
30 seconds. And it was very disappointing.
Yeah, and I know the show writers said that from like season 6 they knew they wanted Arya to be the one that killed it, and I was like, fine, but at least let him and Jon have some kind of battle. That's what we wanted to see. You know?
Give him the fire sword, let them battle it out, let Jon be on the cusp of death, and then Arya dive in and finish it off. That would have been amazing. I would have been okay with that. But he didn't even get a word in before he was done.
Right. You know what bothers me too is we didn't get Jon versus Night King. We didn't even really get Jon versus Ramsay.
Nope.
You know,
we didn't get Jon versus a lot of people.
I know. And it's like, it's a shame because he was built as, you know, one of the greatest swordsmen there is and all this. You didn't get him versus Jaime at all, which at that point Jaime wasn't what he was before. Hell, I would have even taken Jon versus Bronn, because the guy that played Bronn absolutely killed that character. He's one of my favorite characters.
He was a good cast.
Yeah. So it's just it was just such a disappointing season. For me, I wished, like with Jaime, I wish he would ended up like at the Wall. Yeah. You know, maybe finish off there, or with Brienne. I don't care either way with that. And Bran as the king, I just didn't care about either.
Yeah, no, I didn't care about that either. So, I was okay. I mean, it is what it is. Like, what I want to see now with the end of that story and that arc being done with, and Dany is dead, all that good stuff. I want to see what happens to Arya. I want to follow her.
Right. I would love to see that.
She's going to the new world that no one knows about. You know, that's what I want to see. I want to see what other world is out there. What does she get into? Who does she find? Is she still, you know, one of the faceless? Can she still do that kind of stuff? You know, that's the story I want to see eventually and later on.
Well, there is that theory that Danny's not, Danny died, but Drogon took her to the Red Witch over there, and to be resurrected. So,
That I don't know. That's a hard theory for me to believe on, because that's more everybody just wanting that character to be alive, just
yeah,
because the Red Witch could barely bring John back, but John's story was pivotal to the prophecies and things like that. Where Dany's she did her part. She
right,
destroyed the current monarchy and brought the Targaryens back to the continent, and then John's still alive, therefore the Targaryen is still alive.
right.
So she did her part. That's over. So to think that the dragon took her off to go get resurrected. I love dragons. Obviously, I'm a fantasy nerd. But to
Right.
think that a dragon's like, oh no, my master's died. I'm going to take her to this specific person in this tiny world as a giant beast to bring her back to ice. They're smart and they're magical, but I just, that's a hard one for me to grasp.
Right.
I can't do it. I can't. It's too much.
Oh, with building on the Arya thing, and it couldn't be done. But what I really wanted was that scene where they were pulling out and she was standing at the front of the boat and they were just sailing off. I so wanted the Hound to just step in behind her, standing there, because if he would have survived, he would have went with her, and it would have just been so cool. I
Yeah,
would love that.
hands down. That their back and forth was one of my favorite things. I love their banter.
So good. That's some of the best seasons too. Without him, she wouldn't have survived. So
Absolutely.
It's incredible. We'll see what they do with the books. Hopefully that comes out sometime within the next 10 years. He still has 2 to go.
Yeah.
Before we dive into another big topic that I had you on for, I do want to bring up the fact that it is your fault, and you are to blame for the fact that I even listen to rock music. And I talked to you about this the other day. I grew up on country. I started listening to hip hop a little bit, just mainly because the area I grew up in. And it wasn't until I met you, and I was probably 17, 18. I'm trying to think. I had to have been 17. All right, dude. Every time, this guy. What's up?
What's up, Buffy?
All right. Nobody paying attention to you? I know.
That's like my door shut.
Right. So, the very first song that I can at least remember, rock song, was introduced to me by you. And that was Tantric's Poem. And I heard it the other day on the radio.
Taproot Poem.
No, Tantric.
It's Taproot.
I thought Taproot did Headstrong.
Hold on. No, hang on. I am 90% Taproot.
I'm going to be right. I'm telling you.
Poem by Taproot. I am right. Unless you're thinking of a different song, but Poem is written by Taproot. That's one of their songs that came out in 2002. It was on the album Welcome.
All right, you guys are gonna have to bear with us because I can't play music through the podcast, so this part's gonna be cut. So disappointed.
And you're welcome, because I knew I was right. I introduced you to the song. How could I be wrong?
Right. So as I was saying, it's Taproot. I'm trying to tell Todd, but he just didn't listen. But man, Tantric did Down and Out, which was like a song for a baseball player once, and wow,
Tantric had a lot more hits than Down and Out, but yeah, right. Tantric is another good underrated band that didn't get a lot of airtime. But yeah, Taproot Poem. Who
am I thinking of that did Headstrong? Trapped. All these rock bands. They don't make rock like that anymore, though. Like Trapped and all that. System of a Down.
That's a different time, man.
That era's gone, and it sucks that it's gone. But
Shine Down.
Anyway, Shine Down, Bright, Stain. Well, Stain's doing country now. Aaron Lewis.
Yeah.
So, still the same voice though. Like when he sings country, it still feels like Stained is playing to me.
I listened a little bit, and I was like, yeah, it didn't change.
Right. But yeah, so Poem was like, when I first heard it, there was something about that dude's voice that I really loved, and so like hanging out anytime, because for those that know, we met because I dated your sister back in high school, and anytime I'd come over, yeah, right. I mean, look at this. Look at us. A long time ago. But like you started, you introduced me to more and more rock songs, Default, bands like that. And you're also the one that taught me how to play One by Metallica on the guitar.
I forgot about that.
Easiest things in the world. But I was so hyped that I could play something on the guitar.
I forgot about that. That was something.
I remember there was actually one time where your sister was like, "Why do you come over when all you do is go right to Todd's room?" I was like, "I'm sorry, my bad," because I would go over and be like, "Dude, let's play some guitar. Let's do something."
Right, watch some wrestling.
Right, dude. My back still feels from back then. That was dumb.
Yep. 100%.
Oh, so to the main thing here, and I can now close my book because I won't be bringing anything else up. You, sir, are a very knowledgeable person on a subject I have zero knowledge on, and that is Dungeons and Dragons, otherwise known as D&D. I can tell you what I know from it is whatever Stranger Things talk about. So that is all I know, or Big Bang Theory, one of those two. That's the most knowledge I have. So what is the game? It's a board game, right?
Yeah. Basically. So D&D is a board game that's been around since. Forgive me, anybody who's a geek out there, they're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but it came out in the 70s. It's gone through. We now are on 5th edition. So it's had new additions throughout the ages as things have progressed, rules have changed, classes have been reorganized and recreated to fit better, things like that. But what it is, it's an RPG, or known as role-playing game. And I know like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that shows it, where people get together and you have your dice and there's a person telling a story and you're telling them what you want to do. That's the basis of an RPG. It's basically a very long story. And your characters are what creates the game. It's not like you play a video game where you have a set goal. You follow this path, like Mario runs across, he hits this brick, beats this bad guy, and then after you get X amount of stars, you get the end and it's over. D&D is a campaign-based game that can literally go on for years. They have modules that are pre-written of stories that actually go together. So you finish this module, your characters can keep going on to the next, and then they can go to the next. You get up to 20 levels. You start at level 1. You go up to level 20 as you level on and things like that. You get experience points, or you do milestones where, I've played 6 games. We're going to go put you to level 2 now. Some DMs or dungeon masters play that way, which is, in my opinion, I like milestone just because you don't have to try to tally points. You killed this orc, you get 67 experience points, whatever the experience points are. But milestone is where it's at. But it's really just a game where you get a bunch of people together, a guy tells a story, and you tell him what your character wants to do, and the story progresses. And it's all fantasy. It's set in a certain world and things like that, but then you get creative, which is the best thing about D&D, is you can do what's called homebrew, where a lot of dungeon masters, are game masters, depending on what you call them. They create their campaigns all from scratch. So the world you're in might have technology, it might have guns. So it's not always just swords and shields and magic. Some places magic has been disbanded. There's no magic left in the world. And your characters, your group, are out to rediscover it. It could be as simple as that. And then your story progresses from there. So there's no right or wrong. You have to play D&D like this. You have to have a cleric. You have to have a knight. No, you could have a whole party of fighters and still have a good time. So that's the basis on D&D. Okay. Kind of a background of what the RPG is and what you can do with it and story-wise.
Right. Okay. Now, have you hosted your own? Like, have you been a dungeon master or whatever?
I've been a character more than a dungeon master. I've only hosted one game. It was a one shot. For those who don't know, one shot is literally one game. You have your characters. your players, they create a character for one specific game, and you have a beginning, you have an end, and once the game's over, that's the end of that campaign. So I've hosted a one shot. I've got a couple friends of mine who wanted me to do other ones and things like that. So I may host as a dungeon master in the future. I have the book for it to be a dungeon master, but I have not really dove into that world yet. I'm more of a
Right.
character at this point, more of a player.
Okay. So like when as a player you're going through this situation, and I'm just going off of what I've seen on Big Bang, stuff like that. Situation pops up. Okay, you come across a door, and then the guy says, "What do you do?" So now it's up to the players to talk about what they want to do. Now, what if
Correct.
now a lot of them's like, I try to open it. A lot of them says, I'll use my sword to hit it or something. What if some dude says, I'm gonna sit down and take a nap? Is the DM like prepared for that kind of stuff usually, or?
If you're a good DM, absolutely. In those situations, you have that character who's not participating, or like all the other characters are. Let's use the door for example. You're in a dungeon, and I'm gonna use dungeon just because that's like the first thought process everyone
Right.
goes to when they hear D&D. So you're in this this dungeon, and it's dark, it's damp. You've got the smell of mold around you, right? And you come across this steel-plated door. On the steel-plated door, there's no handles. There's a small window about, let's say, about 3 inches long and only about 2 inches high. You look through the window, you don't see, it's just darkness beyond. But there's no other path. What do you do? So most characters are going, okay, this is a puzzle. How do I open this door? And then you'll have those players who are like, oh, well, my character is a fighter. He doesn't know how to do this. He's not smart. I'm just going to sit and wait. Okay. So you let the other party try to figure things out. The wizard wants to, maybe do like detect magic or something, wants to try to sense magic in the area. Or you have a druid who wants to shape shift into a beetle and go through the window and see if he can see what's on the other side. There's all these possibilities. As a DM, you want to run those thoughts, but you don't want to leave the fighter behind either. So maybe you have an undead skeleton that pops up behind them that they don't see, now has a surprise attack. Now the fighter has something to do, but he's sitting prone. So the skeleton attacks. Now the fighter has to react to the skeleton. And so you can turn it that way. Now, a good DM is going to have something like that prepared just in case, but you can never be 100% prepared for any situation.
Right.
It's a lot of it you make up on the fly. You have an idea, you put point A, point B, point C, but then you might make like, point B, point two, just in case they decide to take this path. Maybe they'll go this way, or they may do something you have no idea, so you're just making it up on the fly, which happens. I've been that character who was like, you know what, I'm going to go this way. And then my DM was like, well, I didn't write for this, but we're going to go this way, So it happens. But it's all about doing a story and keeping it going and having fun with it. That's the key.
All right. I'm gonna bring up just a small sidetrack because this is what it made me think of, and we both know that your brother's gonna watch this because you're on it. But it almost sounds like what a wrestling match is, and you have your basic outcome. We know what the outcome is. Like so in Dungeons and Dragons, you want to defeat the dragon and win, whatever the outcome might be. But you have your specific points you want to hit as a DM. I have this written down for them to hit these points. In a wrestling match, when you're preparing it, you know what the finish is, but you also, okay, well, at some point in the match, we're going to do this spot. At some point in the match, hit me with a shoulder tackle, you're going to jump off the rope and splash me and probably break my rib, but that's another talk. But like, so it's kind of like that to where in wrestling matches, you have points to hit, but during the match, it's all on the fly. You're in the corner, you're whispering. It's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do right now. Let's go with it, and then you go. And so that's for me. That's where I brought it. So that's what it seems like is a lot of on the fly stuff.
As a DM, yeah, absolutely. You're gonna plan for things, but you can't plan for everything. Just like in a wrestling match, like you said, how it's gonna start. You may know a little bit in the middle, and you know the outcome. But you may do a shoulder check in the middle of the match, and you knock his shoulder loose. Now half the things you plan for in your head can't be done, so you have to kind of whip it around out of nowhere to make the match look good, but still want to keep it going. Just like in a DM game, your players go, oh, I don't want to go into this jail cell. I'm going to come over here to the tavern. And you wrote for the jail cell. Now you got to come up with what's going on in the tavern. And now you got characters you didn't even make, and now you're trying to take notes on the side of all these people you're creating so you can bring them back, or maybe they're going to be something in the story later on. So yeah, absolutely. That's a good way of looking at it.
So watching, we're going to keep bringing up Big Bang, Stranger Things, and even Rooster Teeth. They used to have a show that did D&D games, Heroes and Halfwits. I notice whenever the DM is there, they have this like big thing, like threefold cardboard. Here we go.
I should have grabbed my things.
Okay. So there it is.
You are talking about.
Yes.
Bam.
Okay. So with the utmost respect, what the fuck is that?
So this is.
Every time I see it, I'm like, what are they hiding? What is that?
This is called the DM screen. So what you're doing is not only are you hiding your dice rolls from your characters, so your players, they're not seeing what you're doing behind the scenes because you don't want them to know how many hit points your particular monsters got. You don't want to know, hey, I just rolled a natural 20. That's a surprise, and all of a sudden you get a big grin on your face. You're like, just so you know, your character's about to die. Those little things you're gonna hide. Now, if you're a good DM, you don't want to kill your characters. That's completely counterproductive. But This is the DM screen. Now, what a lot of people don't know, some might, I don't know. I didn't know it at first. The inside actually has cheat sheets. So it'll tell you things, for example, actions in combat. What can your players do? Like hide, cast a spell, dash, things you can do on your turn. What is it like? Different conditions, like you can be blinded, charmed, invisible. Those are all cheat sheets on the inside of the screen. Now, some DMs make their own. Yep. So sometimes some people make their own, like I said, homebrew, and they'll have like certain spells or certain, DCs. You got to make a challenge to attack the character or something like that. And they may have custom sets, and that's going to be on the inside of their screen. And that's what a DM screen is. So it's a cheat sheet, and it keeps your stuff hidden from your players, so you can be, secretive, like every good person. I totally folded that wrong. Why are you folding horribly?
You are struggling with that.
Right? It's because I never really use it. I got it as a birthday present a while ago.
Okay.
And I've only got to use it once, so.
Gotta get that creative juice flowing, bro.
Dude, I came prepared for this because I knew we were going into D&D.
Yep.
I brought the books needed that I use. We got the Player's Handbook, which is a must for any new player. Okay. If you're a DM, Dungeons Master's Guide, the DMG.
What's in those basically? Tips and tricks type stuff?
So this is everything you need to know to play a basic campaign. This is all your classes, all your spells, all your races, how things work. This is basically the rule book to D&D, 5th edition. Okay. So this is everything you need to know on how to play your characters. Like here's an example. Open the first page, elf, a type of race that you can pick. You skip ahead in the chapters here. Let's go to another one here. And let's see here. Now you have a fighter. So this is everything on how to play a fighter. This is going to tell you everything you need to know. You skip ahead, and let's go here. Actions you can do during combat. So this is going to have like casting a spell, dash, disengage, dodge. All of these things are in here. This is how you learn. Then you have your DMG. This is for Dungeon Masters. If you're a player, don't go snooping into the DMG. It ruins the game. Be surprised. There are some of us who want to be Dungeon Masters and have the book and know some of the stuff, but that's called metagaming. Don't be one of those players. Keep the knowledge to yourself and just have fun with it. But this is, if you want to run a game, this is things that you can learn about. Like, let's see here. Villainous class options is the first thing I opened on. Types of villains you can do. You can do like different paladins, locations, downtime activities. Now you have magic items. These are tables. It tells you all about the stuff you can pick. So it's got a lot of cool stuff in there, but don't be that player and cheat. And
don't be that guy.
Exactly. So it all starts with what I love, my favorite part. Let me get a good one here. So funny enough, the first one I picked is a wizard, and that's the character I always play. Character sheets, also a must. Most of these are electronic nowadays. You can still get paper versions, but you can find a lot online. D&D Beyond is a really good website. 50-50 on who says it's great, who says it's, junk, but
Right.
I personally like it. It's really good. It does come with subscriptions and things like that, but you can still do a lot for free, which is cool. So if you want to check it out, you'd be like, oh, D&D sounds kind of cool. What can I do? Check out D&D Beyond. It gives you a lot of stuff in that book, and it's a good place to start. But character sheets are how you make your character, who your character is. So, you have like your name and what class you're picking. These are your initiative. This is your, stats. You have like strength and dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. I'm saying these things, and most people are like, what does that have to do with anything?
Right.
This is how your character is. So, a normal person, let's think of it on a scale 1 to 20, right? If you are an average person, your stats are going to be roughly around, well, depending on who you ask, but usually say about 10 is an average human. So one, let's say intelligence wise, one would be you are an idiot. You have no skills. You would be more like a 3.
I appreciate it. Give me something.
No, just kidding. But no, 10 would be what they say is average. If you're a wizard, for example, you want your intelligence to hopefully be one of your highest stats. So you want to be like 16, 17. That's a lot of those come constitution, your health, your strength. How can you pick up, pull something, hit something? Sometimes you got to make a strength roll. I want to knock the door down with my fist because I'm a barbarian. Okay, so roll to do so and add your strength modifier. And once again, I'm going into things you're like, a strength modifier.
Yep. Lost me.
So if you look on the wizard, obviously wizards are weak. I'm going to pull this up. I don't know if you can really see it, but we have a -1 right there. That's because a wizard is not strong. On average, a wizard is going to be one of the weakest characters you have, strength-wise, because it's all brain. It's not muscles. So if I was to roll to knock down a door with my fist as a wizard, and let's say I got a 5, right? A 5 out of 20, that's not going to do anything. But I still have to add the modifier, which is a -1. So now my roll is a 4. Exactly. So if I'm casting a spell and I'm doing, let's say, Fireball, which is the classic wizard spell. Don't ever do Fireball in a small space with all your friends. They'll all die. But it can come in handy. If I was to cast Fireball, let's say roll a 17, I add a +3 to it because my intelligence modifier is a +3. Now I have what we call a dirty 20. It's not a natural 20, but it's still a 20.
Okay.
And 9 times out of 10, it's successful. So that's what those little plus and minuses come in. Those are your modifiers.
Okay.
So there's real basics there. So I haven't had to talk this much about D&D in a long time.
I had a podcast with my cousin that talked about politics. I'm just as dumb about that, so I'm just sitting here like, all right, yeah, sure.
That would have been me in that cast.
It was an awesome one. So now let's say we're going to go more of the attack thing, because I'm curious on how it plays out. You get to where you're battling some kind of being, monster, dragon, ogre, whatever it is. So now you have to fight it. So now you would say, okay, I attack. And you roll, right?
So yes and no. So first thing, before any attack happens, before any battle starts, you have to do what is called initiative. It's the order in which you're going to attack. So when you're about to get into a battle situation, your DM is going to say, I want everybody to roll for initiative. And usually as a player, you hear those words, you're like, oh, is it that time? Oh, this is going to be fun, because that's usually an exciting point in the game. But you roll for initiative, and all initiative is an easy way for the GM to track what's going on, because everything's happening super quickly. Now, it may take a minute for you to decide what you want to do, but in game time, it's happening within seconds.
Right.
So the GM wants to know who's next, who's up on deck, if you will, who's currently fighting, when does the bad guy get a turn? Because if there was no initiative order, then it's chaos. Every character's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then this guy's going to do this. But my bad guy, then it's just going to get confusing and it's not going to be fun. So initiative slows it down and gives it an order. So once you roll initiative, you roll your 20-sided die, you add your initiative modifier, which all varies from character to character. But once you get your roll, you get to your point, you start preparing for your turn. Now, if you're first up, super awesome. Hopefully you've got something ready, and if you're a wizard, you got a spell you can cast, or you know what you're gonna do, or maybe you're a barbarian and you want to like run and attack somebody. So you have movement. Usually, if you're playing a game in person, you have a map on the table that have like little squares. Most DMs have those are 5 foot squares, so every square is 5 feet. Most characters have about anywhere between 20 to 30, sometimes 40 feet of movement per turn. So you could be like, oh, that monster is 4 squares ahead of me. I'm gonna go to that person and start attacking them. So if you have the movement, you can move up to them. There's one action, you've moved. Now you can attack. You can roll to attack. So you're gonna take your 20-sided die. You're gonna roll, and hopefully you roll high enough to hit them. And let's pull out a 20-sided die. So
20-sided die. That blew my mind. Jesus.
As you can see, I have a bag full of dice. And
fancy.
I know, right? One downside of D&D is you're like, oh, I'm going to get one set of dice. Next thing you know, you have a bag of dice. You're just like, oh, that one looks really pretty. I want those now.
Jeez, it sounded like ice cubes, bro.
Dice tray. This is actually, it looks like a book.
Yeah.
That opens up. I made this, actually, because I'm a wizard. This is my spell book. But inside, you can see all my dice, but this is a leather bottom, and this is what I use to roll my dice in during the game. So let's see, 20-sided, let's get a good one here. We're going to pick out this one here. So don't know if you guys can see this that well, but this is blue and gray, but you can see there's right there is 20. And it starts at 1, which is right there, which is the worst number to roll. Never want to roll a natural 1. It's always a bad thing. But you have many, many, many dice. So you have your custom, normal, 6-sided die that everyone's familiar with. Then you have your 20-sided. You have, this is a 12-sided die. You've got a 4-sided die. You've got 10-sided die. This is an 8-sided die. And as you can see, there's tons of different dice. So they all do different things, but 20 is the most used dice that you're going to use in the game of D&D. You're going to say, roll for this, roll for that, roll for initiative, roll for attack. All those, 9 times out of 10, you're going to roll a d20 to see if you're successful. On average, if you roll 10 or less, usually you're not successful. You roll 10 or higher, you're normally successful. Now, if you're fighting somebody, let's say your barbarian is ready to attack and you're fighting, let's say, a cyclops, right? I'm going to go with some crazy creatures here. So cyclops, big, easy to hit, so the GC might be really low on that. So you roll, let's say, a 12. DM's going to either tell you it hits or it misses. It's big, you're a barbarian, you're up close. I'm going to say it hits. I'm probably wrong, but we're going to say for subject matter, it hits. So now you have to roll for attack. I'm going to use my, let's say, great axe. And I'm not a fighter, so I'm going to say I think an axe is 12-sided die. So you roll that, and whatever this is how many hit points that character loses with any modifiers you may have. If I was a wizard and I cast, let's say, firebolts, I use 8-sided die, add my spell modifier, and that's how many damage that character would get. So that's where the dice come into play. They vary on things to things. So dice are big, but 20 is where it's at. 20 is the most used dice in the entire game. So that's how you would do the whole fight. So roll for initiative, you'd roll your 20-sided die. Ooh, 16. Awesome. Anybody who's got less than 16 is after me. Anybody before 16 is ahead of me. Then you go into your attacks. Go ahead and roll for attack. Oh, I want to sneak. I'm a rogue. I want to come up and, surprise them and stab them in the back. Roll to be, sneaky. You have those types of skills. Roll for stealth, if you will. Those are all things that you can do. So it's all to the imagination. There's no, like I said, no right or wrong. It's all about what your character would do. How would you do it? And what would you do to achieve said thing? Because you might say something like, my wizard who has no strength whatsoever, he is weak as hell. I want him to go up and punch that guy in the face. And you're like, if that's what you want to do, have at it, bro. But if you come up with a good enough reason, something that maybe your character, came across this guy and he was somebody from your past that, made jokes about your mom, You come up with this whole reason why you want to do something out of the norm. A lot of the times the DM's going to go, you know what? I like how you're putting this into more instead of I just punch him in the face. And they'll let you get away with a little bit more. Like you may roll poorly, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to allow it. You punched him in the face, things like that. It's all up to your DM. So it's have fun is the key, go out, have fun, come up with things and be creative. That's the key to D&D is being as creative as you possibly can.
So much to try and rack in my brain right now. It's
so
like
what
probably,
I would suggest,
it's probably the biggest nerd thing that I've never done. So like, you label these nerd things. You got video games, check. You got the comic books, check. The comic book movies, all this other stuff. And when it comes to D&D, I was just like, I have no idea. Like, and then I start watching like little things on it, and I'm like, that looks like a lot to deal with, and my brain couldn't handle that. So I definitely think I would be down to try it at least one time. I'm just afraid of two things. One, I'm gonna hate it, and I wasted time. Two, I'm gonna love it, and now I got to buy all this crap.
So the good news is you don't necessarily have to buy a lot of things. Yeah, I've got books, I've got dice, I've got a table I made specifically to roll my dice in. I spend a little extra time on all this stuff, but you don't have to have that. All you really need is a pen, some paper, and some dice. And dice you can get for an entire set for less than $12. So it's not going to cost the bank. Now you could be fancy like me. You have a whole bag of dice, or spend way more than you probably should, and get these fancy schmancy metal dice. Actual dice made of metal. I have two different versions.
See, that's the crap I would do.
Yeah, I was
I
a
need
sucker
fancy
for this.
stuff.
Like here's my other set. You've got it's steel with green. So I go a little crazy now. Wish, if you've ever heard of the app or the website wish.com, you can find dice on there super cheap. Takes forever to get here, but you can save a lot of money doing it that way. But you don't absolutely need it. You don't have to have minifigures to play D&D. Some people I know use Legos. They have like Lego figures from their kids, and they just bring a little minifigure, and boom, there's their character to put on a map. Now, as a DM, you might spend a little bit more because you want your characters to have fun and engage. Right. But now you have things, especially with everything going on in the world, you have places like Roll20, which is a website online, which everything's done online. Your character tokens are online. Your maps are online. Everybody's virtual, so you don't have to have. You can roll dice online. You don't even have to buy dice. So you have all these options that you don't have to spend a dime on. And Roll20 is a great one. I've used it in the past to do maps, and I've played a couple of games on there. You can actually go and find people to play games with. You can search for, I want to play D&D 5th edition on Tuesdays or Thursdays at in the evening. And there's people who post games that they're running these games at this time, and they're looking for players. The first game I ever played in was with a guy who was in Canada, all the way over in Vancouver. And he was running the game, and we'd get together on, I think it was Tuesday nights, which was an odd night. But at the time I had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, so it worked out perfect. So I'd get on at like 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. The kid would go to bed. She's getting ready for school the next morning. The wife would go to bed. She's got to go to work the next morning. And here I am sitting in my game room, computer, playing D&D with these people all over the country, some in New York, some in Canada. And we would start at 10, end at like 2 in the morning. So it can be a long game, but it was completely virtual. I didn't have any dice, didn't have a book. All I had was a notepad that I wrote my notes on so I could remember what happened on the next game, and had fun in the story. So Roll20 is a great one. D&D and Beyond, great place to learn information. Another place, funny enough, the Critical Role is a great source of knowledge. Matt Mercer. He's a voice actor. Most people know him from Overwatch. He's the cowboy. I can't think of his name right now, but you know what I'm talking about. He's the voice for High Noon, if you will. And he's been in a lot of different things, a lot of different voice acting, but he is one of the most top-rated dungeon masters out there. And he has a program called Critical Role, where him and his friends have been playing for years. And they record and cast their show, and they've got their own studios and stuff now. It started off when they were like playing from a house, then it turned into a little studio, and now they have like a full blown, like whole decked out studio, and it's amazing. And you can actually follow their game from the first session up to, I think they're into like almost 100 now, I think is where they're at. But they have a whole series on YouTube called Handbooker Helper, and it teaches you the basics of D&D. Like, you want to know about a wizard? There's a whole YouTube video about it, and they're only a few minutes long, so it's not just information. You're watching a 2-hour-long video about this guy talk about how having this wizard of this class of this study is the best because you got to get this item. That's a lot of information. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to use. But if you get the basics, everything else becomes natural later on. So, right. Handbooker Helper, Critical Role, 2 things I definitely recommend searching. If you really want to get into what is D&D, how is it played, I want to watch people play it, they're one of the top rated, in my opinion, places to watch for that particular thing.
I'll make sure to link everything you said down below. People can just scroll down to the info and click on it and take a look. I might have to try the online thing out just to kind of give it a shot. Obviously, everyone knows I love playing video games. I love role-playing games especially. So I might give it a shot. I didn't get big into like Elder Scroll. I know that's something Jimmy plays, which kind of reminds it of me. Like, reminds it of me? That wasn't English.
Me of it.
There it is. So anyway, that's like, I feel like that's almost the direction it would go, that style, trying to like at least match to a game that I would play. But I think I have to at least try it out.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely Roll20 is where you'd want to check that out if you want to try to find a game online. If you want to kind of get the idea of D&D, but in like a video game aspect, so you're not doing the full dice roll or, getting into the full RPG effect. PlayStation, and I think on Xbox too, but I know PlayStation specifically because I played it. There's a game you can download in the PlayStation Store called Neverwinter. It's actually a place in the D&D world that takes place and things like that. It's created by D&D. Actually, it's called Wizards, but anyway, you can download the game. It's absolutely free. There's, you can buy extra stuff and things like that, like most games nowadays. But the game itself is actually free, and you can make like a dwarf fighter, or you can make, a high wizard elf. So you can play D&D, but in a video game style. So you kind of get an idea of what the spells are, the attacks,
right,
and things like that. And there's a story to it, and it's different than the actual RPG campaign that I've been talking about. But it gets you into the idea of the world of D&D in a video game level.
Might have to look into that. That'll give me a good starting point at least. I'll have the comfort of my Xbox controller. I'll start off slow, pop my cherry that way, and then find another way to get in.
There you go. Well, I know I've talked about in the past running a campaign and actually putting a group together to play some D&D. And then, of course, everything happened where now we're socially distanced and, all that stuff. So I prefer, like, the virtual is fun. It is a lot of fun. It can have its issues, just like, running a podcast. I'm sure you've had your technical issues, things like that.
Yep.
But in person is really where it's at, because then you start vibing off your friends and your players and things like that. Because this person gets excited, who pumps up this person, and now you guys are like coming up with all these crazy schemes, and the DM's just sitting there listening to the story unfold, and he's like, you know what? I wasn't going there, but we're gonna go that way because that's amazing. I like that storyline. But on virtual, you sometimes there's a delay, and this person wants to talk, and it distracts this person, and it's hit or miss, but it can be a lot of fun. It's still worth it. I definitely recommend it. Discord, great app to use. It has video, it has chat. There's actually people who run a lot of D&D games on Discord as well. You can definitely look into those options. I personally use Discord for D&D related things for the most part.
I use it for when the guys and we play Among Us, so we use it for that to get in there and set up.
There you go. Not bad. So there's lots of different things out there that you can use, that you can go ahead and do, even with the whole social distancing thing and everything right now, and still have fun and get to it. And it's definitely worth it. It's been around for a long time. I know I'm always available for questions. I'm really good at answering most of them. If I don't have them, I go to my buddy
Right.
who's been a DM for years. He's the one who introduced me into it. His is the campaign I'm playing now. We've been playing for over a year in this particular
Wow.
model now, and his whole world is nothing but homebrew. And it's got a little bit of technology, it's got magic, it's got intrigue. Right now, my character, our characters, not my characters, but all of our characters, we're actually in hell fighting demons and things like that, and it's crazy. It's a lot of fun, but it gets pretty crazy.
That's pretty awesome. Well, now that I feel smarter and dumber at the same time, same feeling I had with my cousin. That was absolutely awesome. I knew that you would. I told Jimmy, I said, if I get Todd on to talk about D&D, I could just kind of bring it up and sit back. And sure enough, you did. So
Yep, absolutely.
it was awesome. Anything you got going on? Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up? We're sitting about an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. Definitely check out those if you're interested in D&D. Definitely check out Critical Role, which is great source of information. D&D Beyond. Just kind of put a couple tags out there that are worth looking into, that are really good sources. Other than that, just remember, if you do want to get to D&D, find like friends who are also like, I've always wanted to play, but I've never done it. You can go to Target, you can go to Walmart, go on Amazon. There is a D&D starter kit that you can buy that comes with pre-made characters, a set of dice, a story, all the information to play a single campaign just to try it. It's like $20, maybe 30.
Okay.
But it has everything you need to start a campaign. Just have one person say, hey, I'll run the game. You guys, here are the characters. You can pick anyone you want, or make your own. It has the basic rules. You can get the basic rule set online for free, but definitely it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would benefit from role playing and having fun with these games, because it takes you out of the present, puts you in a whole nother world, and lets you just have fun for once, instead of
Right.
remembering everything that's going on.
Yeah. We need that
So
nowadays.
exactly. Other than that, stay healthy. I work for a company that's supplements now, so I take a lot of supplements. Perfect
There you
amino.
go.
But body health, if you're interested in supplements or you're looking for protein, I'm going to throw this out here. Now, I work for Body Health, and what I say is not what they say, just to throw it out there. But if you're interested in looking for a protein source and you haven't found something that's really worth it, Perfect Amino, search Body Health, Perfect Amino, Dr. Minkoff. It is a protein source that is great. I have started taking it back in January, and I've noticed a huge difference in my life. So I definitely recommend it. And a lot of people don't know they're protein deficient because they're like, oh, I eat meat and eggs all the time. You're getting some protein, but your body puts a lot of it to waste. Perfect Amino is actually a 99% utilization rate. You're actually getting 99% of that protein, and it's worth it. I had migraines. So I was in and out of the hospital for a while. Started taking this, and I haven't had migraines since, which is
Really?
crazy. So I'm a huge fanatic of it. I recommend it to everybody. I try to get my brother on it, being vegan. There's nothing wrong with being vegan, but you can only get so much protein from beans, and
Yeah.
other sources. Not to say, boy, this is a great source of protein, especially for vegans, vegetarians. It's 100% vegan, non-GMO. So it's definitely worth looking into. So Body Health, Perfect Amino, just throw it out there, a little plug at the end for my company.
We'll put that down there also. Heck yeah, guys, go check it out.
I work on the website. I'm one of the designers for the website. So I'm a
Okay.
junior webmaster. So that's what I'm doing. So
So cool. That's so cool. Yeah, we'll put that down there, guys. Give it a click. Check it out. I'm probably one that should check that out too. So, my buddy, my brother, Toddy Yachty, I miss you, dude. I love you.
Same,
And
buddy.
I'm so happy that you were able to be on here, man.
Absolutely. I'd be honored to be on another time. Maybe we can get
Oh,
some
you will.
more. I figured as much. So yeah, feel free anytime you want me. Let me know. I'll try to clear some time, and we'll get back into some of the stuff we talked about.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one, buddy. See ya.